Bunker Hill and Charlestown, and the flag we love to wave.
Thank you for joining us at Candidates Night tonight. I'm Terry Ingano, and I'll be serving as moderator. We have with us tonight the three candidates for the Massachusetts House of Representatives, 12th Worcester District. They are Charlene DiCarleggero of the Green Rainbow Party, Megan Kilcoyne of the Democratic Party, and Susan Smiley of the Republican Party. We will begin tonight's program with an opening statement from each of the candidates. Each one of you will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and we will begin with Charlene.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here tonight. As your state rep, I will bring sunlight and urgency to the State House. You should have a right to know what public officials are doing in your name and on your dime. I will demand that all votes on state bills be published. Without that right, it's too easy for the State House to become corrupted, and that hurts all of us. I will be your voice to reorder priorities so that everyone in our district can meet their basic needs with dignity, a living wage, a decent place to live, food on the table, good public education and childcare, and of course, health care, with or without a pandemic. I will press state government to get serious about our many crises. All too often, our legislators have given lip service to your concerns, have repeatedly avoided making the hard choices, and don't act in your best interests. I've been a long time volunteer advocating for bills at the State House to defend people from being illegally foreclosed upon or evicted, to get fair tax revenue system, and to act decisively to stem global warming. Most of those bills didn't even get a floor vote. I'm tired of the inaction and evasion, the unethical behavior, sometimes outright law-breaking of our legislators. What would you prefer? Big party machines with big money so the candidates can have big signs? Or would you like a candidate who listens to your interests, has big ideas, and stands up for you? I will be that candidate for you in the 12th Worcester District.
Thank you, Charlene. Next up is Meg.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Concerned and Informed Voters Collaborative, for having this tonight. I want to start out by thanking everybody who supported me in the Democratic primary. I am so grateful for your support, and I am so excited to be here tonight as we continue on this very important election to decide who will be your representative. For those who don't know me, my name is Meg Kilcoyne. I have spent the last 10 years working as legislative director for the current Representative Harold Naughton. In that capacity, I was able to see firsthand the importance of having a strong voice on Beacon Hill to get results directly for each of our communities. In the 10 years that I've been at the State House, I've been a part of many, many initiatives seeking to bring resources back to each town here, as well as work on statewide policies to help lift up the quality of life for everybody in the Commonwealth. I decided this April to run for office myself because I strongly believe I have the experience in order to be a strong voice on Beacon Hill and make sure that we are able to navigate these challenging times that we're living in. I promise the voters of the 12th Worcester District that I'll be ready on day one to make sure that we continue getting results that we so desperately need for each of our communities. This is a place that's very important to me. My family is all from Clinton. I grew up in Sterling, and I live in Northborough. And I want to do everything I can to make our towns a better place for us to live and make sure that we have a strong future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan. And next up is Susan.
Thank you. I'd like to thank and acknowledge the candidate night hosts this evening and our moderator, Terry Ingano. Hello, interested voters and concerned citizens. My name is Susan Smiley, and I'm the Republican candidate for the 12th Worcester District State Representative seat. I've owned my home in Lancaster since 1995. I grew up and attended Sterling schools, graduated from Neshoba High School, and earned my degree in international business management at Atlantic Union College in South Lancaster. My heart, my home, my work, my recreation, and my taxes have long been invested in this community. I have served on multiple municipal and regional boards and committees. I worked at a state government agency, and currently I'm an elected official in the Worcester Middlesex District, towns, 11 cities and towns. I hold a management position at Raytheon Technologies, the leading aerospace and defense company in the world. I am running for this seat because I believe we deserve and need a state representative who understands, listens, and advocates for the will and the desire of the people of this district. You need a friend, a neighbor, someone that has your back and cares about what happens here, not inside 128 or on Beacon Hill. You need someone you can trust and believe in. You need someone that has struggled in this district and has also benefited from the opportunities in this district. I want to represent you this evening. I am that experienced, well-rounded leader that has a bold and independent voice, a determined and focused chairman for the best interest of the district towns. I have let me repeat, no hidden agenda. I just want to serve you, the people of the 6 cities and towns of this district. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're off to a good start, ladies. I will now offer several questions, and each of you in turn will have 2 minutes to respond to them. So question number 1, and we're starting with Charlene. What do you believe are the most urgent needs of the 12th Worcester District?
So right now, we have, again, as I mentioned, multiple crises. And we have, as a state, we were, until recently, the state with the highest unemployment in the country. It's still high, although it's dropped some. So that is extremely urgent that we make sure that all the people in our towns are getting help while they are unemployed, are getting assistance finding other employment, or restarting businesses, or if they lost their business, that they get assistance to reorient and figure out how they're going to support themselves and their families next. We also have a real democracy problem. When we don't know what the State House is doing, which is happening right now, our legislature is often the last in the entire country to pass a state budget year after year, and they keep finding ways to delay. I don't think that's right. That puts a lot of programs in jeopardy. Organizations who depend on state funding, including schools, have to make drastic cuts that hurt our students. So we really need a state house that works on time for the people and is much more transparent and not hiding their decisions in conference committees where they don't vote out bills that should be serving us.
Thank you. Meg, the most urgent needs of our district.
Great question. Great question, Terry. I think that first and foremost, the most important thing that we must focus on, no matter who is elected, is COVID-19 recovery. We are in unprecedented times right now. Both we're facing a public health crisis and obviously the economic fallout of said crisis. I think it's incredibly important that we don't know when this is going to end. I'm encouraged to see that we've been able to make progress in the state of Massachusetts, but we're facing winter. Come January, when one of us is sworn in, we might be facing another outbreak. Prior to focusing full-time on my campaign, I spent my days working with other legislators, local towns in our district, trying to find ways and we could quickly make sure we were making the changes necessary in state law to make sure that our communities could govern and function effectively while still keeping the public safe. This required quick collaboration, not just with our towns, but other legislators as well, to make sure that we were communicating effectively with the governor and the administration so that any legislation that we did pass was effectively addressing the needs here. I expect a similar situation, or I shouldn't say I expect, I hope to not be in a similar situation, but if we are, I want to take those knowledge, those skills, and those relationships to make sure we can hit the ground running, to make sure that we're addressing whatever crisis is before us. In addition to that, we have to make sure that we're supporting our first responders, supporting our local areas of healthcare, such as Clinton Hospital, to make sure that if we are still facing any sort of outbreaks, that people can receive healthcare that they need. And we're doing everything we can to support our local businesses to make sure that we can still survive whatever economic fallout for however long it continues.
Thank you. Susan, our most urgent needs.
Yes, thank you, Terry. Indeed, an important question. And I would agree with both what the ladies have said. I think the COVID situation is of primary focus. We just learned today the governor's moving forward with the phase 3 release plan. And I think we need to get our businesses reopened. I think we need to do it cautiously. I think we need to get our schools reopened. This district, we have 2 towns in the district that are yellow. The rest of the district towns are white in that color code map that says we can go into a fully open situation. We need to get people back to work. I think parents, children need to get back to work, to school. We've got to entrust our businesses and our schools and the professionals that they know, give them the tools that they need, give them the funding that they need to make success for everyone. There's a lot of situations, again, foreclosures, we're going to see the moratorium lifted on October 17th. That's what the governor's forecasting. And there's going to be people that need help, that still need to have that assistance. So we've got to, again, get our senior centers open for the health and well-being of all of us. Keep our first responders funded, our law enforcement people, our town governments. I'm grateful that the governor secured Chapter 70 so that at least the towns could plan and fund for the school year. But again, what we don't know is what will happen in the next coming months. So as long as we can get prepared and have the businesses support that, then I think we'll have a success story to talk about.
Thank you. Several of you mentioned the governor, so the next question is more about the pandemic. How would you rate Governor Baker's response to the pandemic? I guess using typical school grades, A, B, C, D, F. And this one we start with Megan.
Thanks, Terry. Great question, once again, or whoever submitted that question, I suppose. I think Governor Baker has done a very good job at making sure we are taking a cautious approach to reopening our economy, as well as prioritizing the public health of our communities. I think that I would say he would, if I were to give him a letter grade, I guess I would give him a B. You know, there's always room for improvement, I suppose, but maybe I'm a hard grader, I don't know. I think that, you know, in conjunction with the rest of the states in the country, I think we are clearly very fortunate that we have a government that has put first our health and safety needs, that has tried to work as diligently as possible to make sure that we're cautiously reopening our economy, and trying to make sure that health needs are in place. Obviously, though, we're still seeing levels of COVID have not been eradicated from our state. There are still cases being reported every day, and we have to make sure, I would say, Governor Baker, I suppose, and the rest of the Massachusetts government, local governments included, make sure that we are working as hard as we can to make sure that we are continuing to monitor those cases. So if there are any upticks, that we are taking necessary precautions to make sure that we don't backslide into a pretty dire situation.
Thank you. Susan, the governor's grade on COVID.
I would say I would give him a B+. I think he's done a stellar job. It's obviously a testament in his approval rating, very high 80s, that people are happy what he's doing. I think it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, or one of the 17 parties in between. You know, people are happy with what he's doing. He's putting the health of the people in the Commonwealth first and foremost. He has to think about us who live in this district, as well as the people that live in Quincy or Lowell or Lynn that are in a more urban environment. He's also been considerate about supporting our hospitals and our health service organizations and keeping them funded, keeping their employees at work. And I'd also like to give credit, and I would say A+ credit, to Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito, who's really led a lot of the business initiatives behind the scenes with the Health and Human Service Secretary, and been out in the trenches, talked with the business owners and working through solutions in the different various industries. So I think there's a strong advocate there as well.
Thank you. Charlene, the governor's grade on pandemic.
Thank you. So I'm very concerned at the governor's response. I don't believe in giving letter grades even to young people because I think these issues are more complex. I am concerned that the governor has yet to release certain kinds of critical data to help people understand the situation we are now in with the pandemic. I think he has been, he was slow, actually, to respond initially, which is why we had one of the highest rates in the country for a while. And I think that the idea that we could, as Megan says, open senior centers at this time when they are one of the most at-risk populations seems extremely unwise to me. I believe we're getting whiplash with schools and colleges and universities opening and then closing, which makes the learning situation extremely difficult for our students and their parents and the educators. So my sense of the governor is he has not been listening to the people on the ground. He hasn't paid sufficient attention to essential workers, to people who are working in our grocery stores, to people in my own library. When this pandemic first hit, one of the first things I advocated for in my town was emergency paid sick leave, which my library staff do not have. Everybody needs paid sick leave. This is one of the ways in which we have harmed thousands of people in our district and our Commonwealth, is not making sure that that is a basic right. I would like to see the governor get a little more realistic about what it is going to take to really deal with this pandemic.
Thank you. All right, question 3. Give us your feelings about the police reform bill now being discussed at the State House. And this one, we'll begin with Susan.
Thank you, Terry. So, as many of you know, I am the only candidate, have been the only candidate that is truly supporting our law enforcement, and I'm proudly doing that today, and was just recently endorsed by the Clinton Police Union, which I'm most humbly in gratitude for. My situation on this is, and my stance on this is that they cannot and they should not do these things behind closed doors. When we talk about transparency, we need to bring these professionals to the table, and they need to be engaged in the discussions. At the end of the day, I think we need to understand that these law enforcement officers are our community servants. 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, they were driving around celebrating birthdays. We remember them at 9/11, at the Boston Marathon. We remember their heroic actions. And why did that change? It should not have changed. It was a very knee-jerk reaction, in my opinion. I think they need to be at that table. They need to have the support that they should have themselves and their families. And at the end of the day, when we're all in need of something, whether we're in a car accident, we're facing domestic abuse, we're not calling Ghostbusters, we're calling our police. This is not Hollywood, this is not a reset on a video game, this is real life. And we need these trained professionals, some of the best in this country, to be supported both financially and emotionally and through the support of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlene, you're up next on the police reform bill.
Thank you. So I think all public servants, including our legislators, our police, and other public officials paid with public money, need to be responsible to the people they serve. I respect police officers who do their job well, who respect the people they work for. I am deeply concerned that we do not have any way to know whether our police are treating everybody equally with respect. I have talked to a young woman who is African American here in Clinton who said she has seen police officers in this town seeing a perfectly happy family neighborhood barbecue with largely black and brown people, and just for no reason start chasing young black men who were at that friendly event. That's not right. We need to know how much this is happening. Without that information, we have no way to show who should be in that job, who should have the really major responsibility for people's lives, for protecting them, hopefully, but taking them, as we've all seen the George Floyd video. The fact that it is still in conference committee has concerned many people who believe that such a bill will not come out of committee this year. And I, as a legislator, would make sure we respond to this kind of crisis for all the people in our communities.
Thank you. Megan, on police reform bill.
Thanks, Terry. So, I want to start by saying that I've spent 10 years working in the legislature, primarily in the Public Safety Committee. And one of my jobs as legislative director was working with many different actors and stakeholders within that community to try to work on legislation and policy that was going to make change that was effective. I think that for me, I learned how important it was to make sure that you're hearing from as many voices as possible when you're talking about any policy or law. One of my jobs was to make sure that we held public hearings across the state sometimes if there was a particularly controversial piece before us. I think when it comes to police reform, we've obviously seen nationwide that there is an outcry for addressing reforms with police. But I do think it's important when we talk about reform, we have to make sure that we are taking the time to listen to everybody involved to make sure that whatever policy we put in place is going to be effective. We saw earlier this summer there was a 10-point plan that was being talked about in the legislature that actually they had taken concerns of police into consideration. We know now that the bill in conference committee went far beyond that plan. As Charlene alluded to, we don't know where that bill is going to end up, and we don't know even if it passes, if it would survive a veto. I anticipate if elected, then this will still be an issue that we'll be discussing in January. And I think that if that happens, we're going to start all over again and make sure that the process is deliberative. I do think that given the fact this all happened in the middle of a pandemic, we didn't get to have hearings. People couldn't come to the State House. You couldn't hear from people. So I do think just having the opportunity to really vet through all of these policy suggestions is incredibly important, while also making sure that we're addressing serious concerns of racial injustice in our state and nationwide.
Thank you. All right, here we go with round two. Ladies, you're doing a great job. We'll start with Charlene. Please share your thoughts on question 2, the ranked choice voting ballot question that we'll all be facing very soon. Your thoughts?
One of my major platform pieces is to transform democracy here in Massachusetts. I'm a strong supporter of ranked choice voting because we have, as you can see, 3 candidates on the ballot. We had 3 candidates for the Democratic primary. Sometimes, frequently, as in our 3rd congressional race, candidates win without a majority of votes. That is not sufficient support to tell us that most people believe that candidate can do a good job. Ranked choice voting has been shown in communities around the country, including in some communities here in Massachusetts, to result in more people coming out to run for office, to vote. There are more diverse candidates and more diverse voters. There is no downside. It's not hard to do. If you can choose, make a choice from a menu, you can rank choice vote. I would like to say it is not the case that we've been unable to have hearings. I attended a live stream of a COVID housing bill hearing from the State House, hosted by Rep. Mike Connolly. So I'm a little concerned that Megan, who works in the State House, wouldn't know that there were indeed hearings going on.
Thank you. Megan, your thoughts on question 2?
Yes, thank you. I think that ranked choice voting is a great opportunity to make sure that if we do see races with a lot of candidates, as we saw in several congressional races in this state, that voters have an opportunity to make sure that their voice is heard, and we can make sure whoever wins has a majority of the votes. So I do think that it's a great idea. And if voters aren't sure where they stand on it, I encourage them to look up whatever information that they can. The Secretary of State always publishes lots of great information on all the issues, so encourage people that are still questioning it to check it out. So.
Thank you. Susan, question 2.
Yes, I strongly oppose ranked choice voting. I think it just dilutes, reinvents our existing system that's working. We're finding lots of alternatives on how to expand our voting base. And for people, I still walk around and do door to door, and it amazes me the houses that are not registered to vote. So I think we have an opportunity to, again, expand that. I think it confines and delays inevitably the results. It confuses the voters on how to do things. We have a very good system. It's not a constraint on our town services. At this point in time, we don't know what the costs are going to be to bring this ranked choice voting to our municipalities, to the states. And again, in the places that they've used it, they're actually in the process of reversing it, such as up in the state of Maine. So I think there's better solutions, there's better areas that we can focus our attention to at this point in time.
Thank you. All right, on this one, we will begin with Megan. This is, excuse me. Give us some ways in which you plan to improve overall communication between you and your constituents.
Great question, Terry. Thanks again. I think that one challenge that whoever is elected to the seat will face is if we're still in the process of social distancing, it's important to be creative in how you're reaching out and communicating with folks and make sure that everybody is safe. We've seen a lot of people, myself included, a lot of people are utilizing technology, utilizing Zoom. Those are great ways to creatively try to make sure you're staying in touch with as many people as you can from a distance. So things such as virtual office hours are a tool that you can use as a new legislator to make sure you're communicating with your district, and that would mean publicly posting times that anybody can come in and talk to you about, just things that they care about, things that they're concerned with. I also think it's incredibly important, in addition to creating opportunities for people to come to you, and I do want to make clear that once it's safe to do so, to have any opportunity for in-person office hours are incredibly important. One thing I'd really want to do as soon as, like I said, it is safe, hold office hours in each of the towns in the district to be as accessible as possible for people to come and meet me, tell me about what they think on whether it's statewide policy or even issues that they see around them that they care about. In addition to that, I think that it's important for any legislator to make sure that you're communicating what's happening on your end. So things like newsletters, making sure that you're utilizing social media to the best of your ability, making sure that you're returning phone calls, making sure people have your contact information, that's public and disseminated. So just taking every opportunity you can as a legislator to make sure people know who you are and know how to reach you, and make sure however they decide to reach you that you're being responsive.
Thank you. Susan, improving communications.
So I think this is probably the #1 area of improvement that this district deserves. And I think that There's no reason why we can't have in-person meetings now. There's no reason why we can't do Zoom. There's no reason why we can't do a whole cornucopia of opportunity, communication methods. Newsletters, Megan's right, that's how you communicate with your constituents. Social media, having virtual town halls is another great thing. I think probably all of us are doing that on the campaign trail. And one of the things that I want to bring to this seat, and again, this is probably from my private sector experience, is I've always worked in an integrated product team, and communication is number one. You can't do enough communication. And it's how you get the mission done and how you get it done on time. So I think that what I want to do is I want to set up a dial-in for the constituents in this district. I want people to be able to dial in and give their opinion on the votes, on the bills that are before me as a potential state representative. I want to have their feedback. I serve 11 cities and towns as a state committee woman right now. That's how I run my ship on state committee business. I look to the voters in the district and I represent their needs. So I would do that same philosophy inside of the state representative role. And that would be via SurveyMonkey, Constant Contact, however we can do it. But I really want the people of this district to feel like we're a team and that their voice and their vote matters.
Thank you. And Charlene, ways to improve communication.
So it has been my experience, having run in 2016 for this seat, that lots of people don't know who their state legislators are. So there's some communication that hasn't been going on, even though Megan has been on Rep. Naughton's staff and he has other staff. So I think that there's something about appearing in the district. Having been a recent long-term resident of the district, I've been a resident in this district now for 11 years continuously. And being upfront with people. I have attempted on many occasions to communicate with my legislators, and what I get back is, oh, I can't tell you how I'm going to vote. This is what legislative aides learn from a lot of their legislators who they work for. I can't tell you. I will communicate this to the legislator. You ask the legislator, who often doesn't show up for meetings and sends an aide instead, and the legislator says, I can't tell you how I'm going to vote. The bill could change. I think that's being dishonest. I will bring honesty to my role as state rep. I will be taking time to get different points of view, of course. It's unlikely there will be total agreement on any bill, or that any single constituent and I will agree on every single issue. But I think we will find many points of agreement. And I think that's being a responsible state legislator. So I will use all the technology. I will visit all the towns. I will commit to library office hours when we can use our libraries again, if, hopefully in the near future. But if not, certainly all the regular channels, phone and email, will work. And on top of that, I will communicate honestly with you.
Thank you. All right, ladies, this is the last question. How about that? Unfortunately, this is my very own, so something I've wanted to know for a long time. So my last question might take longer for me to ask than for you ladies to answer, but here we go. Hear me out here. You each represent a specific political party in our state. Should you win this election, and one of you is going to make history, you must represent your party at the State House. That's a given. Yet, your real job is to represent everybody in this district, which I think is something like 40,000 plus people, 45,000 people. So that means representing even those people who may not have voted for you. So my question really is, how do you balance those sometimes opposing philosophies or priorities? And we'll start with Susan.
What a fantastic question. Thank you. and pointful. And I think as I contemplate, I've always been a Republican, I will always be a Republican, that's my core values. However, I think we're in a time that's very polarizing right now. It's, you know, I had a couple friends that really wanted to come here tonight, but they were afraid because of the existing person who's serving in office, whether it's the job or, and that shouldn't be. When we talk about equality and we talk about racial justice and we talk about all the things that we're talking about today, just in this community, you know, that long entrenched representation, people are afraid to put up a lawn sign or show up because they don't want repercussions or someone driving into their home or ripping up their lawn. We got to change this. We got to come together. Nothing happens here. Nothing happens here. It happens here. And that's one of the things that I truly believe this governor has done a phenomenal job in doing. And so for the people that know me, they know I listen. They know I'm compassionate. They know that I have the experience, that I have the emotional intelligence to assess and contemplate and bring that together. I'm not going to react. I'm going to represent what everyone's interest is. And again, I'm going to collect people's opinions. You're right, Charlene. We're not going to agree on everything all the time, but we're going to go with the majority because this district deserves that. And again, I want to bring that experience, that leadership, that independent voice forward. For people that know me and my party, they know I don't follow party lines. They know I'm not going to be told by the governor or the speaker, this is how you vote. I will vote my own conscience in the people's interest of this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlene.
So, as a member of one of the 4 official parties in Massachusetts, as a Green Rainbow Party candidate, I have met time and again people who learn about our 10 key values, which include respect for diversity, grassroots democracy, future focus and responsibility, and they say, yeah, I stand for that. Where have you been all my life? So I know that I can reach across differences, can and have. In 2016, I did a standout next to a Trump supporter, and he told me all about his concerns about contamination of the water on the line between Northborough and Berlin. So it was affecting both our town's water supply. And he's like, I know there's water under there and hazardous waste could be being imported into our towns. And I listened to him for a while, and I asked him, so would you be in favor of more regulation to protect our water? He said, not only did he say yes, but he said, you know, I consider myself an independent, and I would have voted for you if I hadn't already voted, but I'm going to go home and tell my wife to vote for you. So I think it's really about the issues, about the integrity. I am the only person on this stage who has an unblemished record as an elected public official. I am genuinely for transparency, and I would add I'm also for truth. Maine has repeatedly reasserted its right to ranked choice voting, and they are voting ranked choice this year, including, I believe, for the presidential election. And I'm very proud that we are, as a state, going to be voting on ranked choice voting and following their example as well as the example of Cambridge, Amherst, Minneapolis, Oregon, and other towns and cities who want to bring real democracy to their states and cities.
Thank you. Megan, you get to wrap this up.
And this is a great question to end on, I think, so thank you so much for this. I am proud to be a Democrat. I do believe in the policies that Democrats support. I am proud to run as one. That said, having worked for this district, I've seen firsthand that when it comes to local issues, there's usually not a D or an R next to that issue. I've centered my campaign on wanting to promote and continue to promote local needs of each of these towns, whether it's a local home rule petition, whether it's trying to secure state funding for a park or a sidewalk or a crosswalk, things that are gonna make everybody's lives better. I think that when we can come together, we all agree that we want to improve each of our towns and do whatever we can to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to bring whatever support we can to each of our communities and helping them thrive. In my family, I have members of my own family that are on the other side of the aisle. And so these are conversations I have at Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter. It's something that I know how to do. I want everybody to feel, no matter how they identify, that they can come to their state rep for anything they need. And they don't have to worry about, where I stand. And for that matter, I want them to let me know, where they disagree with me. It's important to have those conversations too. It's important to make sure that at the end of the day, no matter who is in this seat, we are always putting the 12th Worcester District first, and that is what I hope to do. And I give out, throughout this campaign, I've talked a lot about these issues. I've probably given out my phone number to thousands of people throughout every town. And I tell them, call me. You might not be a Democrat. You may be an independent or a Republican. I am always happy to have a conversation, even if I know we might not see eye to eye on everything. So, it's such an important thing to prioritize, especially where we do live in a district where there are so many opinions and so many sides. So I look forward to talking more about these with voters, and if elected, hopefully talking with constituents about it.
Thank you very much. All right, we will conclude tonight's program with closing statements from each of our candidates, starting with Charlene.
Thank you. It's been great to get a chance to talk about my campaign to transform democracy, to save people and the planet. I've been talking to people around the district for months. I believe I am the candidate with the courage, experience, and integrity you need, and the independence to stand for you and not for the big money and the big party machines. I am the only candidate, that's my theme music. I am the only candidate in the entire state running on an alternative party platform. That is exciting and also concerning, because a choice between two choices, when we even get that much of a choice, is not a real choice. Often our incumbents have no one opposing them at all. Only 1/3 of all the state legislative races in 2016 were opposed, and I think it may be similar this year. So when somebody steps up to run who is an alternative party candidate, you can trust that those people really believe in what they're doing. This is a hard job, running for office, and it's going to be a hard job if you actually do it and if you're actually honest about it, to be your state representative. I will be that advocate inside the State House for you who understands what it's like to be outside and not be heard.
Thank you. Megan, you're up next.
Thanks, Terry. I want to once again thank everybody for watching tonight. I want to thank you, Terry, for being a great moderator and for your questions, and to Voters Collaborative?
Concerned and Informed Voters Collaborative.
Thank you. I want to thank them for hosting us and having this wonderful forum where we can hopefully was helpful to the voters out in the 12th Worcester District. I've spent months talking to voters throughout every town in this district, hearing their concerns, and I believe that I am the only candidate that knows what it takes to get results at the State House. I've been able to successfully work to secure funding for each of our towns. I've been able to get bills both local and statewide passed, and I want to bring that experience to help lift up each of our communities and make sure that we continue to have a strong voice on Beacon Hill, and that most importantly, we continue to see results. There are so many things that our legislators can move the needle on. It's not just about statewide policy, although those are crucially important too. It's also about supporting each of our town governments to make sure that we're doing what we can to make sure that we're advancing their initiatives too. This is work I've been doing, this is work I've done, and I can promise everybody that's watching tonight that I'll be ready day one to make sure that we hit the ground running and have a strong advocate to get results for each of our towns. So thank you once again to Terry and everybody watching, and I humbly ask you consider voting for me on November.
Thank you. Susan, closing statement.
Thank you again to the voters who took the time out this evening to listen out of their busy schedule to hear the differences that each of these candidates here on the stage offer. If you're a person like me who is seeking change, who wants a new voice, who wants a different style of representation, I'm your candidate. I've worked to establish very many positive relationships, both at municipal level government, state government, legislative, Senate, governor's office, county seats, and also have had a number of years in the private sector. I'm interested in serving private partner government partnerships. I think there's great solutions that we can bring forward there. I think that we've had this type of representation for too long. I think the voters in this district deserve a new voice, a proven leader. To serve you is going to be my main mission. I want to promote critical funding for our schools, for our seniors, for our veterans, for the agriculture business that we never get to talk about, that's so important in this district, our natural resources, our small business owners, and we have to preserve our water supply and our open space. I will always promote local control for each of the town to form fit their individual community needs. I don't believe in mandates that are statewide that don't fit this district or each individual town. I will always fight for safe neighborhoods and communities and always fund our law enforcement professionals. With the early voting starting in October and going through November 3rd, I ask for your vote. I ask for your vote for new and positive change, and I ask you to vote for Team Smiley because together we are going to beat this 12th District team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies, for participating in tonight's program, and I wish all of you the very best of luck in the future. To the listening public, I think you know by now, Election Day is Tuesday, November 3. Please do your civic duty and go out and vote. And finally, before we end tonight, I want to thank Jeff and Laureen Swan of the Concerned and Informed Voters Collaborative for all of their work in setting this up tonight, and Clinton Town officials for allowing us to use the Clinton Town Hall. Thank you and good night.